Good evening and welcome to tonight's edition of Fact Sheet live on Happy 98.9 and e.TVGhana. We are excited to have you this evening, even as we delve deeper into the issues of national interest. And here we say it as it is without mincing words, and dispassionately we discuss the issues, bringing out the tangents that are usually lost out in the conversation and ensuring that at the end of the day, you take along something that would inform your next conversation when you also are having a debate. My name is Samuel Ishen and I welcome you to the conversation tonight. So we all have been following the Supreme Court sittings and it's been live on most of the platforms, e.tv being one of them. And I know you've been following what's been happening. But in getting that content that you get every day, there's a role that the media play to ensure that you get the content that you get each and every day. And tonight, that's what we are discussing, the role that we have played as media men in ensuring that content is fed our viewers, our listeners, our readers, and online as well. How have we fared in terms of ensuring that viewers, listeners, and readers get fed the right information? At what point does subjectivity and selectivity come in when it comes to content that is coming from the Supreme Court? If viewers and listeners can recollect, one of the concerns we had as media men was whether there was going to be a live coverage of the proceedings in court. The Supreme Court made it possible for us to cover it, but have we been satisfied with the content that media has been churning out? What goes into the headlines we read each and every day? And talking about the headlines for tonight, I will talk about what the media said this morning in terms of the coverage of the proceedings in court, the election petition. The final says, is today the end of the road for courtroom action by the lawyers. If you read the Daily Graphic, it says, election petition, Jean Mensah, McMenu won't testify. Respondents, counsels tell court. Other papers, Daily Guide says, I was offered tea, no biscuits, Rojo. EC Nana not calling witnesses. EC Akufo-Addo lawyers dribble Chachu as they prevent their witnesses from testifying in court. Death toll. Okay, I think Supreme Court to rule on EC chair's cross-examination today. And just a few other papers that reported on the happenings in the Supreme Court. EC sacked me from strong room. My lords, we won't call Jean Mensah into the box. These are a few headlines that we got this morning from the various print media as their headlines. Same issue, same court, and yet varied headlines we got this morning. What informed these headlines? That's what we are discussing tonight on e.tv's Fact Sheet. We'll be back. You're welcome back. This is Fact Sheet live on e.tv, and tonight we are discussing the role the media is playing in the coverage of the 2021 election petition, which is happening at the Supreme Court since the matter started. We've been bringing you up to speed with the latest real-time information live on e.tv. And tonight, my guests are with me to deliberate on how we have covered the election petition, the content that we've been giving you. And as I earlier indicated, if you follow the headlines I gave you, it's the same place we all were, and yet different headlines that are being given by different papers. What informs the headlines that we see each and every morning? That's what we are talking about tonight on the show. My guests are Mr. David Tamaklo. He's the editor of the WhatsApp newspaper and also the president of Primpack, Vice President of Primpack. He joins me tonight for this discussion. So is Mr. Andy Kankam also joining me. He's the editor for the Informer newspaper to share their thoughts and take us through the processes that lead to the final product we read each and every day. We'll try and delve into other realms, for instance, social media and the content we read on social media, especially when you see the reactions that are being given on social media per the pronouncements of the various legal teams for the parties that are in court. And so, gentlemen, good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Sammy.
Good evening, Sammy. It's good to have you on the show. David, the last time we spoke, it was via Zoom, right?
Yeah, very well.
It's good to have you in the studio.
Thanks for having me.
All right. So let's begin the conversation by firstly taking a reaction from you as to the processes so far, the Supreme Court and the case that's before them. What have you seen? What have you observed in terms of how the case is proceeding?
I will say it's been a very interesting time and very interesting in terms of the election petition hearing. I think that those who follow the 2012 election petition hearing and are following it now would have a lot to talk about. There has been a lot of differences, not only because there's a different ally governing this, but also the countenance of the court vis-a-vis the fact that these witnesses, apart from Asiedu Nketia, are different, and also that the lawyers, apart from Chachuchikata, the other lawyers representing the respondent and the two respondents are also different. And even more interesting is the fact that the roles have swapped. The respondent then is now the petitioner, and the petitioners, then of course the EC is always responding. The NPP now being a respondent, it's an interesting thing to watch. I think that watching what had gone on generally in terms of how the media had covered it, I think that there has been a lot of changes also there. You look at the 2012, where some people were cited for contempt here and there, and landing some others in jail. And now the fact that people appear to be very careful about what they say, so we don't see too much of the media being innovative with headlines. I've not seen much of that. It looks more like they go to the court there and carry what the witnesses may have said, or the lawyers may have said, or the judges. They pick, a stemple or pick it and run around it like that. Which is different from what happened the other time, where people were so, anxious. They were saying things out of their mind, probably because people did not avail themselves with the procedures and the what they can say and what they cannot say. So I think the reportage showed that people are either afraid or they are being careful. They are either afraid or they have learned a few things about from the last one, and are doing differently this time around. That's my initial observation.
Andy, what have you observed so far since the proceedings started?
Sammy, thank you. So far, so good. I think that we are getting more education as far as the legal process is concerned. Today, for instance, when the lead counsel for the petitioner, Chachu, was challenging the motion why it is important and necessary for the electoral commissioner to mount the witness box. You see the back and forth, the consultation at the bench, the education, referrals to cases, even those outside the jurisdiction of this country that are in the law report that can be cited. I think that by and large we are getting insight into this thing, and I can state clearly that I'm beginning to have the appetite to go and also read the LLB, and eventually once my vice president as a student of the law, at least it will guide us. Also the media, like David rightly said, either we are being circumspect for not to be cited for contempt, or because listen, after this post trial engagements, media engagements, where both sides, and I mean the defendants, the respondents' lawyers and that of the petitioners' lawyers, mount the podium to at least address the media, and the warnings, the warnings from the bench. Initially it was Frank Davis who was warned. I watched that interview he had, and I told some people that, listen, the bench will caution him. And then subsequently yesterday, right, for the second time, the Chief Justice gave that stern warning again that, listen, what you people are doing, the commentaries you are running, they are prejudicial. Even some even go to the extent of talking about the demeanor of witnesses that will not help the matter. All in all, I think the media space, those creamy headlines that we saw in the previous election petitions are no more. Meaning that we are learning from our mistakes. Who wants to be cited for contempt? No. I mean, I don't want to be cited for contempt, and I think that I am following this case closely, and I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot.
Now, my brother mentioned something regarding what the lawyers were doing, the commentaries they've been running. I think it was one of the things that kind of amazed me, given that, I mean, even the ordinary public were staying away from certain line. And if you listen to most of them commentary, you realize that it wasn't necessarily about, you know, even what happened previously. It wasn't the political thing. They were deliberately misinforming the public about what actually took place.
The two sides?
I think most often that was what, I saw that mostly with Frank Davis. I mean, interestingly, the last two sitting, he didn't show up, but I think that mostly when he comes to tell us, I mean, I don't know, he just says things that I mean, a lot of people are watching this, and so people hear what transpired in court, and so probably he appears to try and position it the way he understands it, and often, I dare say, misleading the public.
But can the same point not be made about the caution that the justices made for that of Madam Brew Apiopong, that, you know, I remember one of the justices making the point that, look, Madam, some of your comments as well, it was the same warning we had given to Frank Davis, and so we expect that going forward, you should be careful with your words. And interestingly, it's not the media that are rather being caught in the web in terms of the possibility of being cited for contempt, but rather it's the lawyers. I think if we can go back, we'd even realize that it was lawyer Ayini in court that, you know, we saw the justices prompting him about his mannerisms and gestures in court. So it looks like the media rather are being careful, but the people who understand and appreciate the gravity of contempt are the ones who are, you know, faltering at the moment. But that's not a subject matter for the conversation this evening. I would rather want us to focus on the media. Now, we all admit that it looks like and you are choosing your words as carefully and as professionally as possible, being senior journalists. But is it a matter of carefulness, a matter of circumspection, or a matter of fear?
I think that's an interesting question. The issue is where, I mean, how much does the media know about what to say and what not to say? And what I see now is more or less the fear from what happened the last time. I think that aside what some of the lawyers were doing in their commentaries, if you follow carefully even what was happening in court, you realize that it's about choosing your words carefully in order not to prejudice what the court processes are already. So that you are not going to say, for instance, that this case will go this way. I mean, you can't say that you know that it will go this way, and maybe make some insinuations that would paint the judges in a certain, you know, color before the public. Or, as one of the judges pointed to, I think, Madam Marietta Brew, he said that she was giving pictures or describing the demeanor of the witnesses. So that, I am sure, because also she is a lawyer, one of the lawyers, then it may suggest that she being, I mean, as a lawyer, you are the officer of the court. You are an officer of the court. So if you are in the same court, at that time, witnesses are, you know, there's nothing like, he's your enemy or anything. So your conduct is very, very much expected to be something that even the witness can respect. But if you describe the witness in a particular manner, that is why the judge was coming in. But there again, I mean, if I have to give a fair comment of what was happening, I think some of the judges may even be guilty of what they were complaining about. I can say that in my opinion, that some of the judges were guilty of the same thing they were, citing Marietta Brew for.
But they have that prerogative power to make comments, to either question, to either caution, and comment at the same time. They do have that power.
So I mean, there's a difference between commenting and
questioning,
describing a person in a certain manner. You realize that at a point there was some altercation between a near altercation between lawyer Chachu, and one of the judges, where he claimed that the judge was harassing his. I mean, ordinarily anybody would have said, that's a confrontation. But I mean, he said it in a manner that would be deemed as, I don't know how to put it,
polished.
Certain protocols, he said in a certain way that it's polished. So respectfully, my lord, he's going to disagree with the judge, but I mean saying respectfully. So all those things are certain antics that, I mean, certain
observations,
acts that happen in the court. But for we, the media, the question is, how do we know what to say, what not to say?
Yes, that's the point I was going to come to. I mean, that thin line between reporting what transpired and being held in contempt, at what point do you know that you are in between that fine line? Because I am asking myself the question that if the media is afraid to say what it sees in court, then what then does the viewer who may not have had the opportunity of viewing what happened in court, or the reader who may not have had the opportunity of seeing what happened in court, in reporting this in your print, do we feed them the right content with fear at the back of our minds? Andy?
No, you see, Sammy, I think the media so far, they've been up in their reportage, being guided by events of the past. That's one. I don't think they are afraid. They are reporting what is transpiring regarding the proceedings. But it is rather when, after these engagements or the proceedings, that they give the opportunity to lawyers. They give the platform. They run their mouth, they run the commentaries, and that is where the problem is. As for the media in general, I know on countless occasions you've called lawyers to throw more light on some of the proceedings. So you are doing your job just to educate your listeners and viewers. But when you call that a lawyer and the lawyer runs his mouth, for that one, it's not your problem. The only thing you can do is to dissociate yourself from that or distance yourself from that lawyer. But in as much, and I have heard you, watched you, sometimes guiding them, right? Guiding them and then drawing their attention to the consequences of whatever they will say. Like David said, as an officer of the court, you are always expected to respect the court and the bench. And that is why you see, even when Chachu or any of the lawyers disagree with the bench, I mean, respectfully, I disagree or something like that. So, I mean, generally, I think the media, we're performing our duties.
But are we
discharging ourselves?
Are we performing the duties creditably in terms of the responsibility on us to inform, to educate, and to ensure that the right information is put out there? Is it creditable?
So, I mean, for instance, your website here is awash with stories from the proceedings, previous ones, and even this week's proceedings. Same as the other media portals, the newspapers. At least they are throwing more light on the proceedings. So I don't think that the media can be faulted for not living up to that responsibility, that constitutional mandate given it that, listen, this is what we have to do. We have to help disseminate information, educate, or entertain. We are doing it. Even the comic side, that falls under the entertainment aspect. It was even reported today. And that was regarding Rojo's issue that I was served with tea and not with biscuit. Yeah. You understand? So we are discharging ourselves creditably, and I salute the media. I am happy for the media not taking side in this matter. I've never read anywhere, no paper, no portal, heard any media outlet saying that, oh, as for this case, it's going this way. This person will win, this person will be the loser. No. But you see, the 2012 petition, some people were making such mistakes. They were making such pronouncements for which people were cited for contempt. People even gave their platform to political apparatchiks to come and run their mouth. And you know the story. Like Red Davis said, people ended up in prison. When they even attempted to challenge the court, that is that my charge sheet you are reading to me or something like that. But that is past. So the media, yes, we've learned from events from the past. We will not make those mistakes. But when we give you the platform, you come to run your mouth and you get into trouble. I mean, the best thing we could do is what? We disassociate ourselves from you. So, like somebody will say, you tell him more.
I think the way I understand that question, in my understanding, as to whether we are carrying, I mean, the way I understand it, that whether we are actually doing what is expected of the media, the public or journalism is expected of the media. I think that there is a line there that I'm not very, very clear about, the way we are reporting so far. I don't think that it is just our case to go to court, just carry the headlines or the statements by these people and come and publish it like that, and maybe just run
commentaries.
I mean, just print whatever they say extempo and come.
What do you think is missing?
I think the art of journalism somehow is also missing in there, because I think that, and it's true, it may not be any fault of the journalists, because I think we need to interrogate some of these things that are happening. Of course, we know that there are fine lines, there are the prejudicial lines that we cannot cross. But that doesn't stop us from also, for instance, if you pick maybe the CI 47 as it's being quoted all the time, CI 87 as it's being quoted, if you pick and you educate yourself a little about what it says, and a particular lawyer maybe trying to run commentary, you can, compare the two and tell the reader what really the issue is, how stupid that lawyer may have sounded, because you know what you are putting across. So I think that art is what was missing for me.
But is it not a question of an understanding of the field, the terrain we are in? Because we are just journalists, we are not lawyers. And so to have an understanding of the profession of law would inform your appreciation of the issues enough to elaborate further for your viewers, your listeners, and your readers to understand the issues at play in court. Do we have that understanding?
That is true. I think that's what I said earlier. It's not any fault of ours. There's something we call media law. I'm not sure we do it so much here, as in we get much training from that. We do it at a basic level in the various universities. But if you intend to report from the court, then it is important that we acquiesce, we understand some of these things. We take a practical step to understand some of these things to help us report. We are in a competitive environment these days. If a journalist from e.TV is reporting from the court, and another one is reporting maybe from Joy FM or whichever is on WhatsApp News, there should be that preference for a reader or a viewer, and that preference will only come from the professional way you report the thing. So I think that we are doing our best. We can do better. So I think that the journalism institutions would have to then look at what is going on now and factor that in their curriculum and help, or maybe other institutions, journalists themselves may want to apprise themselves with the media, I mean the legal aspect, I mean court reporting, let me say, so that we can enrich our reportage for our readers and also enhance competition.
All right, so you're welcome to the conversation if you just join us. This is Fact Sheet live on e.TV, and tonight we're discussing the role the media is playing in the coverage of the petition at the Supreme Court, the issues therein, what goes into the content we churn out in the course of doing our work, informing you and educating you as well. But there's a very important issue I want us to look at when we come back from this commercial break, and that has to do with the point that Andy made about how, regardless of the leanings of the various political parties, it looks like the reportage has been good. But how do we delink the leanings from the publications that these newspapers produce, or online tabloids, or radio stations and TV stations produce for their viewers, their listeners, or their audiences for that matter? We'll take a look at that angle when we are back from this commercial break. So you're welcome back to the conversation. It's live on e.TV, and tonight on Fact Sheet we've been talking about the role the media is playing in the coverage of the Supreme Court, sittings, the petition for that matter. And my guests, Mr. Andy Kankam and Mr. David Tamaklo, have been helping me to understand what goes into the processes or production of the content that we consume as readers, listeners, viewers of most of these platforms that we take the news from. And before we went for that commercial break, I was asking the question about how it is obvious that in this country there are political parties, there are media men who lean towards certain political parties in this respect. We know the NPP and the NDC. How do these papers publish, these online platforms, these media houses, how do they stay in the middle on a matter as important as the election petition to ensure that their audiences get fed content which is devoid of their biases? Andy, that was a question I was asking. How does that happen when we know some papers are pro-MPP, some papers are pro-NDC, some papers are in the middle, some for the other smaller political parties?
Before you went on the commercial break, David was talking now about the quality of reportage and the reporters or media practitioners knowing their stuff and reporting exactly on the issues so as to educate the public better. At least my grandmother, who is at Jache Pramso or Pando or Mafikumase, you understand, will get a better appreciation of what is happening. Listen, it shouldn't be lost on us that media houses have not made it a cautious, deliberate effort to build the capacity of their reporters. Just yesterday, a very giant media house in this country, I was told, I mean, it's in a dire need of resources that the remuneration for these reporters is nothing to write home about. So if they are not able to properly pay them salaries, I mean, how do you expect that their capacity will be built? We normally hear of the Busak Fund or whatever that coming to us, the budget. We normally hear that, there is some allocations for the media for capacity building and whatever. Is it the case that the media houses are afraid to go and assess it, or the money is not allocated, but just some lip services or something like that? I think we should go beyond this and investigate, because if you don't build the capacity of the person, we are privileged. I mean, you are not just a reporter. You've gone to school. You have a specialized field. Like David has an appreciation of the law with his LLB background. So that is it. So when he's questioning or interrogating somebody, a politician, from both sides, from the petitioner side and the respondent side, he knows the questions to put to them. We've also have the opportunity to get these books that we are reading. So I won't allow you to go scot-free.
Are you by any stretch of imagination suggesting that these headlines, these content we consume are not falling short of the
Standards?
yes, because of the quality of the journalists presently.
Like David rightly pointed out that, listen, you need to pick a section of either the CI, you understand? Because anytime the counsels for the petitioner and the lead counsel and for the petitioner and the respondents are on their feet, they are arguing their case out, you see them referring to CI. So I think that what David is expecting us to do as media houses or media practitioners is that, like a section, a particular edition, you dedicate a column. CI so and so is about this. CI so and so is about this. That is, I think that is what David is proposing. But you see, unless
Not necessarily.
Unless their capacity is enhanced. And I always talk about the capacity building, because the person must understand what the CI is before even going out to write something. Otherwise, you end up confusing the public. And that one will be very scandalous, that you are feeding the public with half-baked information. And that will have a toll on the image, the integrity, the reputation of the media house that you represent. So the issue of capacity building should be looked at. And I say this
but I thought
without exclusion to...
I heard, I think somewhere, was it last year, that the GGA president had said that in terms of your welfare as journalists in this country, some insurance package was being sought, you know, empowering the media. All these things were in place to ensure that the media gets the capacity to be able to do the quality job we expect of them, especially when it comes to the coverage of the election petition. I
think I belong to a very organized group, Primpac, and I'm privileged that my vice president is here. And I know the steps they are taking, so I will have trust in and believe in that. I think that the point you raised was in the build-up to the election, where there was some, I don't know whether it was for the optics, that the SIC and the GJA leadership met and spoke of some insurance package. I know my leadership, and I belong to Primpac. They are doing something in that regard. So for that one, I am cocksure that I'll be covered pretty soon for me to discharge my duties without fear or favor. Sammy, the point of whether our reports has this political twist. Yes, Sammy, even the electoral commissioner, they vote. All those appointees, they vote. They have a political party that they vote for. An old man will say, the only neutral person is those at the morgue. You cannot be in the middle. You're either for me or you're against me. They may have their biases once in a while, but compared to the 2012 petition, honestly, Sammy, truth be told, I think this 2020 election petition hearing is an improvement. It has been an improvement. Because you see,
is it the case that journalists, regardless of their political leanings, are being more nationalistic?
You see, that is where we have gotten to. Because you see, we must make that effort to build a better Ghana, irrespective of the political party that you belong to. You must not allow your conscience to be defiled. Listen, we all agree. And today I had conversation with people that why is it that, and wouldn't it help our governance process and democracy if the electoral commissioner is allowed to mount the witness box to clear the doubts and whatever. If you say this, listen, whether I belong to party A or party B, listen, this is what I think should be the cause. If I disagree, I must cite a reason. But we are all helping to build institutions of state and deepen the current dispensation. So if you have a view to prefer, and people think that, listen, you are not towing a certain line that will inure to their political benefits, please, to hell with them. Because, listen, I prefer to have a clean sheet in the eyes of God than human. And it is time that as media practitioners, we speak the truth, irrespective of the party that we support. Like me, I am a Cadbury member of the NDC. I continue to say it. I'm not shy of it. But when I disagree with decisions of the party, I will say it. I will say it, and I don't care whose source is God. So, Sami, this particular coverage regarding the election hearing, the petition hearing, has been an improvement, a tremendous one.
Is it that journalists are being nationalistic, Dave?
Sami, I think that I do have problem with this particular school of thought.
Okay.
We think that, let me say it this way, that it is not so much about whether a journalist belongs to party A or party B. I think it's more of, making sure you follow the etiquettes of the profession. Every profession has some ethical considerations. Like lawyers who do have certain protocol, like we said, they are officers of the court, they have to do certain things that
the
ordinary people cannot do.
The 55 thing that the CJ quoted.
Yeah.
They can't do things that the ordinary public can do. So it's our profession, this noble profession called journalism. It's not necessarily about whether you belong to party A or party B. It's about how truthful you are and how consistent you are about your thoughts.
Is it about truthfulness, or it's about fairness in reportage?
If you allow me to learn, I think that we owe it a duty to our readers not to insult their intelligence, so that when there is an issue, even when you disagree with a particular thought, school of thought, it will make sense. It will make reasoning to people. So whether or not you belong to party A or party B does not matter. It is whether what you are putting out there doesn't insult them, your readers or whoever is listening to you. So that is very, very critical, because then when you do it that way, you will be degrading the profession itself. So you have to stick within that periphery of the ethics of the profession. That, if you are writing news for public consumption, there are certain lines that you cannot cross. Your party doesn't really matter. All you need to do is to make sure that you have, you obey the ethics. Be fair, be balanced, be truthful, most importantly. So the truth somebody may disagree with your position. That is fair, but it is not more or less about, whether you belong to NDC or MPP. You can still belong to any of these political parties, but say things. We've seen a lot of them. If I may, so that I don't forget, there was the issue my brother made about court reporting. I think that this is a very good opportunity for journalists to showcase what they can do. In 2012, one of the persons we all admire, or I should say I admired a lot, who did a good court reporting, was Mabel Akubanase.
Yeah.
We all agreed, most of the people agreed, that she gave a fantastic court reporting. And why did they say that? They said that because they think that she was doing something that would be expected of journalists. There were a lot of other people who were reporting the same thing, but the accuracy with which she reported matters a lot. The fact that she was even reporting for Daily Graphic, who requires certain this, but still she was able to, win the trust of the reading public. You can still be in a private paper as well and do that, so long as, she used a particular style and it worked. But she emerged as a star of that 2012 election reporting. And I think that this is another opportunity. Let's see the next Akubanase in some other journalists who can come up with the best way of reporting. I think that the issue of fear and all that, we can still, if we apprise ourselves very well with the rules of the court, we can still do some sort of analysis and interrogations which will still not find us on the wrong side of the law.
But there's a very important area.
About Akubanase,
Yeah.
See, I agree with you partly, but partly I disagree. You know, when it comes to those state media, they have people dedicated for court reporting because they have the staff, strength for people to be deployed to such institutions.
That's true.
Unlike the private
But
prints
the
or
point he
whatever.
was also making was that it's not only Daily Graphic which was there. I mean, Times was also there.
Yes.
And so there are other media, print media platforms that are equally as big as Daily Graphic. And yet, for instance, let's just pick the two state media. If of the two, she stood out, I mean, she was doing something unique,
Yeah.
right? So that I believe that's the point David was trying to make. That
You see,
regardless,
when
I think
I'm-
his argument also makes sense.
When I'm
where-
giving, when I,
mean,
have
Aku
that
Banasi.
capacity, right, and I'm not discriminated against, David's paper is not discriminated against in terms of adverts or whatever, and we get a needed revenue. You think I cannot recruit somebody and say, be at the court, we'll build your capacity, these short courses that are being run. David knows of it. Even Legon, I'm told by May, June academic year, they will be starting some evening short courses in terms of law. People having this basic understanding of the law and how to report on these issues. Sammy, so if I'm not discriminated against, we can also do the same.
all right. Before our time runs out, there are two areas I want us to look at quickly under 5 minutes. One is the fact that when we are talking about the media, we are quick to talk about the print, the radio, the TV, and co. But not social media. But that's where the damage actually happens. I mean, you should see the spin people put to the issues of the courts on social media. Dave, you are present. It's only Andy who is not on social media. Are you back, sir? You're not.
I don't think that's the focus.
Yes.
Of whether
But Dave,
my being on
you
social
see,
media is not a
you
focus.
see
of
the
this guy.
spin people put to the happenings, in the courts. Sometimes very, very much in contempt of the court, and yet, because it's an area which we haven't paid attention to, they go scot-free. And yet, those of us similarly in the traditional media space, a statement which you make, whether on TV or radio, you can be held for contempt, but on social media, people virtually go scot-free.
So, Sammy, you are right. I think that we all know that the social media, to that extent, is not very much regulated. So they act a little differently. I mean, vastly different from what the traditional media is. And I may say that the traditional media is being watched more than the social media. But I think that we will get there as well. But there's a difficulty in also trying to be so strict on the social media, because then that is the masses you are dealing with there. And if you are not careful, you'll be seen as siphoning information, or censoring the public to a very large extent. So the regulation of that would be a bit more technical, and I think it will be even gradual. But it's in other jurisdictions it happened that the courts extended the content issue to even social media and got people. I mean, by the rate at which we do it here, I mean, people on Facebook, on their own, listen and say what they want to say. I think that would be very difficult to put a cap to that now. But yes, you are right. There are a lot of people who say things, anyhow they want to say it.
All right. Andy, let me pick the final comment from you. And that has to do with the issue about regulation and what some say and what some do not say, and the role of the National Media Commission. You think in this respect, empowering the media to be informed enough to cover issues from the perspective of law, you think that the National Media Commission is doing enough for journalists?
Not at all. They are only there to take complaints against us. I don't think they've organized any serious workshop aimed at building the capacity of the media practitioners. When you are petitioning against, or a complaint is sent to them, they will call you, they will pursue you, come. That is all. So enough. They need to do a lot. About the social media thing, like you rightly said, I'm not there. But you see, we cannot allow some people to just get on that platform and assassinate character of people who have, by dint of hard work, built their reputation. That should not be allowed. I will not be there. I mean, the good sides are there. You can use it. Now, some in educational circles, like in the academia, that is where most of the classes or whatever discussions take place. But some will deliberately get onto that platform, take you Sami Eshen and run you down. And you think that, listen, I am looking forward for a landmark ruling in this country that will be extended to the social media. That even those who are beneficiaries, ultimately or whatever, of those publications must be banned from holding public office. You understand what I'm saying? A landmark ruling is needed so that we sanitize the media space. For the fact that you disagree with me, who doesn't give you the temerity to go and run me down.
All right. Our time is fast spent.
Area, but let me just something small. You know, because of Primpack, it's a media organization, and I think that he said the National Media Commission was not the only thing they are there for is to take complaint. I think their requirements are far more than that. But the media leadership, the umbrella groups, I think that we need to do a lot more to bring to carry along our membership. Our membership. We need to do a lot more to bring all of them on board, and these political, differences sometimes worry us. I think that if we can just leave that where it belongs and focus on building the industry, it will be very much good for us.
All right. Well, we would end the conversation here, and I'll thank my guest, Mr. Andy Kankam, who is the editor for the Informer newspaper, Mr. David Temaklo, who is the editor for the WhatsApp News, and also the vice president for Primpack, for making time to join me this evening on Fact Sheet. It's been an engaging conversation, and I believe you are taking something home tonight, even as you join the conversation. My name is Samuel Ishen, and I'm excited that you join us this evening for the discussion. Our focus has been on the role that the media has been playing in the coverage of the election petition at the Supreme Court. Tomorrow, God willing, there will be a repeat broadcast of this conversation on e.TV at exactly 10 a.m. So you can inform a friend to follow the conversation, and it's been live on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. I'm grateful you made time to join us tonight.